Hey guys, we're here with Dr. Travis Stork of The Doctors on his set for the commercial for Simply Saline. So what can you tell us about what you're doing here today?
Well, we're just shooting a commercial for Simply Saline. It's Arm & Hammer Simply Saline, but it's Simply Saline made with real Arm & Hammer baking soda. So basically, this is part of what I've been doing to help promote natural treatments for cold and flu. So Simply Saline, it's saline nasal mists. And people who've probably seen the commercial know that I'm a huge fan of saline nasal mist, neti pots, because it's all about when you're sick, what are things you can do for yourself that aren't going to harm you, that are going to help you feel better. And nasal irrigation, highly underrated.
Very important.
You know, it is, because one of the things that occurs during this time of year is cold and flu season. People want to know, what are some safe ways that I can feel better? And it's not always safe to just go to the pharmacy and pick a ton of different medicines and just start taking them haphazardly, because there are side effects. So what I always tell people, whether you're talking about yourself or your kids, is as much as you can, go the natural route. And in the case of Simply Saline, that's one of my big go-tos even for myself. I mean, if you went and looked at my bag, that's what I have, because everyone around us seems to be sick. And we're walking around in germ-infested airplanes, and when you go to the mall, and so a big part of it is making sure that you are in the best possible situation to not only avoid getting sick, but treating yourself with things that aren't going to do harm.
So once you are sick, what are your top tips if you can knock them out? We've got Simply Saline, obviously, nasal irrigation.
The other big things, getting plenty of rest. You want to make sure that you're well rested so your immune system can have a fighting chance to fight off, whether it's the cold, the flu, pneumonia, whatever it is. Eating good foods, I call it the rainbow. A supplement is not going to get you better. If you eat the rainbow of foods, natural rainbow, not artificial dyes and colors, you're really giving your body the nutrients that it needs. And then hydration. If you're staying hydrated, then you're doing a better job of doing the simple things, like keeping your nasal passages moist. These are all things that can help. Another little tip, I'm obviously a big fan of saline, is not only nasal irrigation, but if you have a sore throat with your cold or your flu, gargling with warm salt water can be very effective as well.
So you don't advocate any supplements like vitamin C, any specific things you should be taking?
I wish the evidence pointed towards a magical supplement out there, and if you watch the news or commercials, you'd think that tons of supplements help, but unfortunately the evidence just isn't there. So if you want to give yourself the best shot of getting over the cold or the flu, do it when you shop the periphery of the grocery store, when you go in and buy those fruits and veggies. Those are the supplements you need.
So February is Heart Health Month. What are the worst habits a woman can have for her heart?
So I'm going to give you the 2 S's. The first one's obvious. Smoking. Absolutely. What's the second S? I'm doing it right now.
Stress. Stressing out? No?
You know what? I like that one. Can I call it the 3 S's?
Sure.
So
You need to quote me on that, but
we can get that trademarked. The 3 S's that you want to avoid. There's probably more than that, but smoking, obviously. Sitting. Women who sit all day long, we call it sitting disease. You're really putting yourself at risk, not only for heart disease, but diabetes, obesity. These all go together. We're learning more and more that the more you can get on your feet, the more you can move around throughout your day. The only reason I'm sitting right now is I've been standing up for 5 hours straight while we're taping this commercial. The more you can be on your feet, it's called non-exercise activity thermogenesis. The more calories you're burning, and you're giving your heart a nice subtle workout throughout the day. Stress is another huge one. Interestingly, the more sedentary you are, the more stressful you just may end up being too.
Interesting fact.
So is that 4 S's? Sedentary?
Sedentary. That goes with sitting, I think. Okay. Also in February is Valentine's Day. How does love and marriage affect your health?
It's really interesting when you look at the studies. So I think time is showing that it's all about the relationship. It's not necessarily the institution of marriage or not. It's, are you in a healthy relationship? But the data clearly states if you're in a good, healthy relationship, you probably will live longer. You probably will be healthier. But the most important thing, I can't emphasize this enough, is if you're in a relationship, support one another, not only emotionally, but in terms of your physical health. And those are the marriages where, if you look at it, people live longer and they're happier.
Weight loss is always a hot button topic, especially in the new year. And you're always hearing about the next fad diet. What are the top 3 worst fad diets that you've heard of that you wouldn't recommend to any of your patients?
So can I be completely honest? I ignore fad diets. So I hear so many fad diets coming and going that I put earmuffs on, because if you hear the word fad and diet together, it's probably not good for you. And that's almost across the board. Healthy living and healthy eating is not a fad. Unfortunately, healthy living, healthy eating doesn't always sell or promote one thing or another. So I focus on telling people, eat a healthy, well-rounded diet. That's not a fad. That's not going anywhere.
So just natural foods, kind of like what you were talking about before.
Natural foods, but it's really important. You don't need to eat like someone who's back in prehistoric times where all you're eating are nuts and berries. The nuts and berries are great for you, but this is a key, and I've learned this in my own life. I grew up in the Midwest. It's not even so much what you're eating, it's how you prepare it. So if you're gonna make a burger, you know what? Go with grass-fed beef. And if you want to really put it on a bun, put it on a whole grain bun that's a little bit lighter in calories. Instead of mayonnaise, use avocado. Use things that are adding health to whatever you're eating rather than taking away from it.
So you said you do ignore the fad diets, but can I quiz you on a couple of them? Your thoughts?
You can quiz me.
Okay.
I may or may not have heard a few things about
How about juicing?
Juicing and juice cleanses, I don't love them, and the reason is you're not getting any fiber. And the way a juice acts in your body is, yes, you're getting nutrients, but it also is pure sugar. So I say eat the entire fruit, and so maybe a modification is I blend because I want that fiber. But if you want to have a juice as part of your day, then by all means. But I don't believe in this idea of going days on end with nothing but juice.
You're more for the smoothies than the juices.
Well, I say let's keep the nutrients. And if you think about it, so many of the nutrients and the fiber actually comes in the skin of fruit or the insides of the fruit. And unfortunately, a lot of times, if all you're drinking is juice, you lose that.
The paleo diet, you just mentioned cavemen, so I'm not sure if you advocate that.
Well, the paleo diet, a lot of my friends who do CrossFit have tried the paleo diet. Here's the reality. There are a lot of good things in the paleo diet because it gets back to even the hunter and gathering days where you're eating natural foods. I do believe, though, that once you start limiting yourself, it's really hard to follow something throughout the rest of your life. And everyone I know, I've never been on the paleo diet, they've struggled with it over the long term. But there are healthy, and let me say this, there are healthy components to a lot of different fads out there. And I think the key is picking out those healthy components and figuring out if you can stick with them.
Keeping at this, the raw diet.
We've talked about the raw food diet on the doctors many times. Raw foods, raw vegetables, raw fruit, great for you. Interestingly, some foods, like tomatoes, if you cook them, you have a higher concentration of the lycopene that's available. Other foods maybe are a little bit healthier if you eat them raw. Point is, again, I don't like rigid things. I like flexibility. Flexibility is what makes eating fun. It's what makes life fun. So great components of the raw diet, but you'll never see me eating all raw foods. It's one of the things I always say about health. Health does not need to be complicated. One of the reasons I partnered with Simply Saline, literally, is the theme is keep it simple. Good health is simple, and the more we complicate it, the more difficult it is to achieve.